Hello, I'm Nancy, and welcome back to Nan's Next Knots. Now, we are gearing up for Luck of the Draw 5. I know there's a lot of people out there that's real excited to get started on this one. I think that we're going to probably have the best turnout that we've had so far. So this video is to give you information on the pattern of the blanket, or recipe if you want to call it that. And also, you don't have to do a blanket. It could be a scarf or a table runner. I've had people get really, really creative. I had one lady do it in like a snowflake granny square. So she had 20 squares that she attached together with her main color. And I've had a couple ladies even do snakes. So they did a different stripe of the snake each week with each color. So people, and then another gal made a shawl, and she also on one of the Luck of the Draws made like a ongoing granny square, and as the colors were picked each week, she added on a round. So people have gotten really, really creative, and this time there's a couple gals that's gonna do a pattern that the Canadian crocheter just put out, where you use two colors to make this square or make it bigger or blanket, but instead of using two colors, they're going to have one main color, and then they're going to change up the colors as each week's color comes up. So that's how people have gotten creative. Now, what you'll need, I did a little chart here where I've picked my colors, my main color, and 8 other colors. Now your main color, depending on the size of the blanket, this time I'm doing a double size. I'm going to need 1,600 yards at least of the main color. And this time my theme is tropical. So I'm actually going with 2 main colors that I'm going to trade back and forth. So I've made a card and assigned the colors to the numbers. And so how this works is every week, well, let me get to that. Let me show you the pattern, how my pattern goes. I do a chainless foundation, which I consider also the first row. Now you can chain if you want, if that's how you feel more comfortable with. But I do 3 solids because it gives you kind of a border and a base. And then every week I'll pick a number, which will coordinate with your colors. And I do a solid row of doubles. And then the next one I'll do this window row, which is also called the lace stitch. And on the beginning of it, I start out with 3, or you can start out with 5. I did one with 5. It worked really nice too. I start out with 3 solid doubles. And then the window stitch, also lace stitch, is you would crochet whichever you want to do on this. This, by doing 3 here, it makes this edge more structured. So, and then I like to put the window rows in there because it gives it pliability. I don't like a solid fabric. So this lace stitch is, you do your crochet and then you chain one and skip this one, and then you do another double crochet. Hopefully you can see that. So this is my base color. This would be week 1. This would be my base color, and this would be week 2. And so every week you could go ahead and do these 3 rows, and then I'll pick a color. So then you'll do those 3 rows, and then you could do another of your 3 basic to get ready for the next week. And that's usually what people do. So actually you're doing, after you do these first 3 rows, you're going to be doing 6 rows a week. And now you could do that 1 a day if you want, or do 6 in one day or 3 in one day. So it does leave you time to work other projects. And if you want, you can pull this out of your stash. That's when I started this. It started with COVID and we couldn't go buy yarn. So it really started out to kind of be a stash buster. And so what you could also do when you do your colors, if you have like a partial skein then you could pick more than 8 and put a couple extra in case I draw that number 4 times and there's not quite enough to do 4 times, so you got an extra. So keep that in mind as you're picking your colors. Okay, oh, and when you start your chain row, it needs to be an odd number. So you could do it as long as you want, just make it be an odd number, and that way it'll work out with those window rows. And another reason I do 3 rows at a time rather than 2 rows is because when you do 3 rows, your ends are gonna be, one end will be on this side, one end will be on that side, so it goes back and forth. Now, if I was doing a 2-row repeat, all your ends would be on one side. So, also, for your guys's benefit or whatever, I'm going to, in the description box, put a link to a previous information video on a previous luck of the draw. And that way, if you watch both of them, you're sure to catch anything that I might have missed. Okay, so the yarn that I'm using, this is my basic color for this next one coming up. This is Aqua, and it is Premier Basics. So this is the first time I'll be doing a blanket with this, because normally my go-to yarn is Caron 1 pound, and that's what this is. But now I'm going to go to Premier Basics. So I started my beginning row so I could show you all. So I did the chainless double foundation row. And when I do that, it's real stretchy, and I like that rather than a chain. But if you want to do a chain, that go right on, just whatever's comfortable with you. But I do the chainless foundation, and because it's so stretchy, I go down 1 hook size. Now, on this blanket, I'm going to be using a size K hook. So when I did this initial chainless foundation row, I did it in a J. If you're going to chain it and then double, what I found that works best for me is I go up at least 1, so that you're making those chains bigger, so it doesn't go tight in your work bows because your first row is tight. So I go up 1, maybe even 2. And by the time you get to your 3rd row, you're going to know how that's worked out for you. All right, so then let's see, what else? Every Thursday morning, I'm not setting a time because I'm old. I can't keep on the clock, you know. I'm old and retired. So every Thursday morning, I got a hat, and I have 8 numbers in here. And I'll draw a number every Thursday. So, you know, like number 3, then you go to your chart or however you're organizing it and use number 3. So you guys can go ahead and start out with your basic color and get your first 3 rows. And then we'll pick a color and we'll go from there. So every week will be 6 rows. So hopefully, yeah, like I said, you'll be able to have time to work on other projects. Okay, what else do we need to know here? We're going to start February 3rd. Let's see. I'm looking up my notes here. Hold on just a second. Oh, when I turn from a row, there's all kinds of different ways to do whatever you feel comfortable. I do a lot of your basic stuff tells you chain 3 and turn. I only chain 2. And when I chain those 2, I make sure that they're loose. I kind of elongate them a little bit. I don't like the chain 3 because it always kind of it's like 1 extra stitch. It leaves a hole there, and I don't like that. So I chain 2 and I make sure they're plenty there. And that's what I do, is I'll chain 2 and I'll turn. And then I'll go into the 2nd stitch. I'll use that chain 2 as my first stitch. You could also do chain 1, turn, and go into the first stitch. I've seen that done too. So then when you're done, and I'll go on for 20 weeks, And when you're done, you don't forget to do your 3 rows of your basic color to finish it off and match up your beginning. Also, on Facebook, Nan's Next Knots Facebook, I created a new page for this Luck of the Draw 5. So feel free to go on there and post pictures of your yarn, how you've designed it, pictures of your project as we go along. So hopefully I have not forgotten anything. It will be every Thursday, and have fun with it and enjoy. I think we're going to have a lot of participation. So we'll see you next week on Nan's Next Knots.